kind of bullshit day of streaming. I swear I'll get back to like other stuff eventually, but it's not like I have a lot of people like actually watching this kind of thing, so I don't really feel as obligated to keep to a strict schedule, I guess. I do plan on getting back to like South Park and Grim Fandango and stuff like that, but I have just been feeling like fucking around the past couple days. So today we're gonna play a visual novel, or at least start a visual novel called Cupid. And as you can see, it has a warning for mature content. It's PG-17 plus. Game contains disturbing imagery, violence, flashing images, sudden and loud noises, mature themes, and strong sexual content. So I'm going to try to enlarge the window first. Does that help the stream at all? Because the text looks kind of stupid for me. No, it doesn't look like that helped, like, in the least. Which sucks, but oh well. Okay, sorry. Had a thing. We want the mature filter off. Because I already have it, like, I have it settled to be, like, the stream has a warning for mature stuff because of South Park. So, what drew me to this game, hold on. I can have a full screen. Let's just have it windowed anyways, just so I can see the chat. I like to, oh, fuck me. If I can adjust the size of the window, be nice. No. Ugh, maybe I'm not going to be able to see the chat anyways, because I can't adjust. Oh, oh, there we go. The text may suffer for it, and I'm sorry if it does. But the main importance of a visual novel is the visuals. I mean, the novel is important too, but I'll be reading it. So let me get music and stuff kind of turned down so it's not so fucking loud. We have the mature filter off. We're not gonna skip dialogue. Stop, skip after choice. Yep, okay. So, what drew me to this was not only that it seems to actually have some mature themes and an actual fucking plot, which a lot of visual novels, surprisingly, either have a very simple plot or no fucking plot at all. Like, there seems to be no in-between with some of them. But I also really liked the look of the art. So we're gonna start. I have not touched this at all. Hey, I got an achievement! Playing as an adult. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. There's no need to explain. It's only natural. A mother loves her daughter more than anything else in the world. He hates you, doesn't he? The whole lot of them despise you, don't they? Chasing you into the forest and gouging a hole into your leg. Christ. All because you smiled at their husbands. Really? Some bitches chased me down? And you know what? You deserve it. Oh, fuck you, Mom. You freak. You disgusting, horrible, filthy little girl. Didn't I tell you to stay away from them? You never listen. Serves you right for being the little slut you are. God, Mom! Fuck off! But you don't have to worry, my darling. It's alright. Even if the whole world wishes you dead, I promise you this. Your mother will always be by your side. You little fucking slut. Priest. My goodness, child, whatever's happened to you? Damn. A girl was slumped in the doorway, soaked by the rain. Her legs were covered in dirt and blood. She lifted her head upon hearing the priest's voice and stared at him with blank eyes. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. She hobbled forwards, her bloodied leg giving way. Automatically, the priest rushed forward to steady her. Years of spiritual training had prepared him for the most unexpected guests to his church. He sprung into action. He ushered her to a pew, brought out some clean cloth and antiseptic, and began to bandage the wound on her leg. Yet throughout all this, he found that he couldn't take his eyes off her. He would be gazing at the roll of bandages in his hand, deciding how to tie them, and then out of nowhere he would be staring into her eyes. Even with all the mud and grime smeared across her face, he couldn't deny that she was absolutely beautiful. I really hope I am an adult, or this is really creepy. How old was she? 20? 18? 16? Oh, there's all ages of consent, so... Her face was so young. The priest had long since aged past his desire for the opposite sex. Oh, I call bullshit on that. Nobody ages past their libido. It might go down, but it does not go away completely. But somehow, something about her enraptured him. When he realized his own thoughts, he quickly steered his mind towards other matters. My child, what happened to you? She seemed to take all the time in the world before responding. He looked at me. Looked? He looked at me, and he touched me, and then he started to kiss me. At first the priest didn't understand. And then he realized with a jolt of anger what she meant. It was happening more and more often nowadays. The young men of France these days were spirited, uncontrollable ruffians. Oh, those fucking Frenchmen! A lady walking home by herself one night would be prey to a few number of them. Lust. One of the 7 deadly sins. The one that the priest personally despised the most. Furrowing his brow in sorrow, the priest laid a hand on her thigh. You are safe now, child. God's house is a sanctuary for the faithful. I don't think he'll protect me. He looked at her in confusion. You see, Father, I've sinned again. Right there among the pews, before the altar of God, she bowed her head. I'm sorry. Was she apologizing to him or to someone else? Her hair hid her face and her eyes, and the priest could make neither head nor tail of her. He suddenly realized that his hand was still on her thigh, and he hurriedly drew it away. I'm sorry. She repeated this phrase over and over. After a while, the priest got up. Don't fret, child. You are not to blame. I will contact the local constable, but in the meantime, you're free to make yourself at home here. I'll fetch you a hot drink. He patted her hand and left to go to the back room. She remained seated on the pew, her head bent forward. As the priest's footsteps faded away, the entire church fell into silence. Did you click? Okay. Now that it was the dead of night, the clouds covered the sky. Barely a sliver of moonlight filtered through the stained glass. The girl sat alone in a ring of darkness. She opened her mouth. No, I know. If I may see my peace, surely. Yes, mother. But he's so very kind. Oh my god, I get to choose what the fucking... Oh. I fear for your safety. Child, follow mother's words and leave. You saw the look in his eyes, didn't you? You cannot stay here. Even a man of God can stain you with the filthiest colors. Be a good girl and follow mother's words. But it is cold outside, mother. The rain has not let up. Can't I stay? Achievement unlocked, mother's intuition. This is weird, so I'm not playing from the perspective of her. I'm playing from the perspective of her mother, like quote-unquote mother. This is weird. Alright. Why not? The worst comes to worst, you get raped again, I guess. Oh, I say that just as someone comes into the chat, too. Hi, guys. I suppose you can. But you must be wary of everyone in this church. Do you understand? You are so weak, my darling. You give my heart so much pain. I'm sorry, Mother. I'll try my best to stay out of trouble. How am I going to mind you like this? You attract so much misfortune everywhere you go. Oh my god. Fuck. This is like, do you be an asshole or do you be nice? My stupid little girl. You're an asshole either way, I guess. Always a blight, aren't you? Whatever will you do without me? I'm sorry, Mother. Thank you for always guiding me. It is all my fault. The girl sat in silence. Mother was right, after all. She was always right. Everything was her fault. Her fist shook with a mixture of fear and conviction. She had to do penance. Mother, give me strength. There's something I wish to do. The girl rose from the pew. In front of her was the altar, and on top of the altar was an ornately decorated cross. It was as wide as her head, and the tip of the cross had been crafted such that it was razor sharp. "Aw, don't hurt yourself!" She left the pew, knelt briefly, and then walked over to the altar. "Don't tell me. You're quite sure you're doing this?" The girl's arm trembled ever so slightly. "What other way is there for me to atone?" She picked up the cross. "Oh, my darling daughter. Mother is proud of you." Slowly she brought the sharp end close to her face. Good Lord, what? So close that it hovered just above her left eye. And then she... Oh, come on. You poked your eyeball out? That was the prologue? Holy shit. Huh, wonder why I've got my hair covering my eyes now. Or my eye now. 'Cause it's not there. A scruffy young girl in tattered clothes peeked through the open gates of Chateau du Sommeil. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything. I'm not French. I don't know French. An afternoon gâteau was being held in its gardens. People from high-class estates strolled around the manicured gardens while chatting loudly with one another. There were beautiful ladies clad in silk and velvet, their necks adorned with pearls and jewels. A variety of food was displayed on the tables. The girl stared at the food. So I wonder if I had, like, told her to leave, if she wouldn't have stabbed her fucking eye out. Or if she would have been like, no, before I go, I have to do this. She hadn't eaten properly for the past few days. Oh, God. Are you hungry, child? Are you hungry, my dear? Yes, Mother. Don't you worry. Mother will provide. You do not need those high-class foods anyway. They will upset your stomach. Now, we've stayed long enough. Let us leave. Surely we can look around for a bit. It's still a little early. There was something else that called to her, other than the party itself. She walked to and fro from the gates, peeking at the crowd, despite the urgings of her mother to leave. Just a tiny glance would be enough. The girl smiled at the thought of him. The owner of the chateau, the Marquis de Gull. The girl was drawn to him. He wasn't the same as other people. He seemed different somehow. Like he wouldn't rape her. He was kind to her and would always hand her food when she delivered flowers. Her heart felt at ease with him. I do not care for him. But I wish you would stop ogling some man like a common whore. I just want to see him, Mother. What for? What good does his presence do you? He makes me feel that there are still good people in the world, Mother. There are no more good people in the world, child. Cynical mother. Achievement unlocked. The world has run out of them. All that is left are manipulative souls who appear kind on the outside because they need other people to survive. Ultimately, they only care for themselves. Don't you think I'm a good person, Mother? Of course I do. You're special. Haven't I raised you as such? I've tried my best, my dearest. Yes, Mother, you keep me right. I love you. The girl stared at her shoes and looked around for a bit, hoping for just a glance before she left. And there he was. There was no harm in looking, she reasoned. She would never enter the Marquis's world. Let her heart be filled with hope. He turned his eyes in her direction. Did he smile at her? The girl's heart stopped. Did he recognize her? She beamed. My, is this creature deaf as well as dumb? I can't do a French accent. It might be, poor thing. Mademoiselle. A voice called to the rose girl. She gasped. It seemed that somebody else had noticed her presence. She turned to leave. No, no, my dear. Poor little creature. Don't run away. Charlotte, she stinks. Don't touch her. Came to crash the party, little urchin. You hungry? Her stomach gave a low grumble. She was always hungry, it seemed, no matter how much or how little she ate. Encouraged by the kindness the Marquis had shown her, the girl approached the women. She teetered towards their table. What are you selling? Look at this poor creature. Is she selling roses? These are all ugly ones. But not as appalling as the rags she's covering herself in. Are you trying to be this repulsive? Yeah, probably. Now don't be mean, Antoinette. Of course one of them's named Antoinette. Perhaps it's a commoner fashion nowadays. They laughed while gawking at her and her wares. Oh my, she only has one eye. Ghastly, but I can't look away. The other lady nodded her head. Like a sideshow attraction, you mean? The freaks at the carnivals. She's darling in her own dirty, monstrous way. Maybe we can keep it. Hello, do you want some bread, urchin? Well, speak up. Maybe her tongue is short. Add that to the list of her sterling qualities. Quiet, Antoinette. Come on, don't be shy. Do you want some food? Let us hear you speak. Yes, madame. What? Yes, madame, I would be grateful. One of the ladies clapped in mockery at her reply. Oh, she talks! The ladies handed her the bread, but it was snatched away just before her fingers grazed it. Ah! Not before you dance for us first. God, France is so bitchy. Oh, make her do a handstand. I've seen one of those street people do that. Quite marvelous. I guess I shouldn't say French people. It's, rich people. Rich people suck. Now, I'd like to see that. This party's getting quite boring. Well, come on, ma bête. I don't know how to say that. Ma bête? I don't know if it'd be bête or bête, because I don't speak the French. I took Espanol in high school instead of French. So, you know. The girl looked at the beautiful, cruel faces of the women. That look on them. It was a burning desire to hurt something simply because they could. She knew that look. Before they touched her and hurt her, they had that look burning in their eyes. Oh, look what you did, Claudette. She's shivering like a leaf. Poor thing. The lady was laughing as she said those words. I didn't do anything. She should be grateful we're even offering her this much. Besides, these commoners are supposed to be jolly in their misery. Come on, girls, show us your joy. The girl moved away as they laughed. Mother, please save me. Mother. Didn't I tell you people are cruel? Haven't I taught you this time and again? People are cruel. Now you see it firsthand. Hey there! A child's voice called out from behind her. It belonged to a girl around 7 with chubby cheeks. She looks like... I guess it's just the shape of her dress, but I swear I saw a titty. It belonged to a girl around 7 with chubby cheeks and a look of curiosity in her eyes. She wore an old blue dress patched at the corners, but kept clean and tidy. She was not rich, but she had an air as if she owned the ground she stood on. Another commoner. This party's absolutely teeming with them. The Marquis loves these things. Heard he picks them randomly from the street. Maybe I should get me one too. Do you think it's fashionable abroad? In his birth country, I mean? Persia? No, I heard he was from India. I heard a rumor he's a bastard son of a Greek queen. Goodness, that is so far-fetched. I could barely pronounce his name, though. He really should change it to something more acceptable. Oh, so they're racist, too! Oh, God, I love them! Claudette, Antoinette, and whatever the other bitch's name is. Who knows what kind of demons he might attract with such a blasphemous name. Aha! It must be why all these nasty, horrid little creatures flock around him. Oh! Devil or not, I'll forgive him if he kisses my hand. The ladies laughed. Salope! Aren't you ashamed? Aren't you shameless? Don't lie. We all know why we're here. The ladies gossiped among themselves, openly ignoring the girl. The young girl took the sliding with a shrug. She approached the table and asserted her presence. What you doing? Goodness, they don't take a hint, do they? Throw something shiny. It might distract them. Hey, you've been holding that bread for a long time. Aren't you going to give it to her? She pointed at the shabby rose vendor. Why do you care? Do you want the bread for yourself? I bet she's hungry too. I know. Maybe you should toss the bread and see if they'll fight for it. Ooh, bum fights! The ladies laughed to themselves. The girl stared at them with confusion, her brows furrowed in childlike understanding. Next thing everyone knew, she had swiped the bread from the woman's hands. Oh my! How rude! Horrible, filthy girl! Give that back! The girl sniffed the piece of bread and nibbled at the surface. Yummy. It's still warm. She shoved the bread in the urchin's face. The scrumptious scent of bread flooded the rose girl's nose. Lick it! The sugared butter tastes good. No, you devil child! Give that back! The urchin licked it. Her tongue was coated in sweetness. She stood there, squeezing the taste in her tongue. The girl grinned at her, and she couldn't help but grin back. Sorry, here you go. It's all yours. Ugh, disgusting! Like we're going to eat anything that's been in your filthy mouths. Wow, so this is ours now? You ladies are so nice. Cheeky little brat, I'll have you thrown out of this party. I'll have you... Who is the fancy man? A young man strode to the commotion. A sweet scent lingered as he passed. The rose girl felt her mouth well up. His presence filled her body, almost as if her hunger was abated. She blushed furiously. What a strange effect he had. Ladies? Ladies? Oh, sire... Oh god, I don't know how to say that in French. Guilleme? I just came to check in on my esteemed guests. Is everything alright? Are you enjoying yourselves? One of the ladies started fanning herself with obvious annoyance. Well, these little beasts have been harassing us. Yes, my lord. We were just minding our own business when this girl swiped the food off our table. Horrible little nits. The girl stuck her tongue out at them. A lady wiped her eyes in mock tears. See, look at that. It is absolutely monstrous how these children act around adults now. There's no respect, messiah. Respect, messiah. I worry for the next generation. Oh, Charlotte, don't cry. Well, my lord, we would all breathe a little easier if these children were sent on their way. Yes, who knows what kind of mischief they... Damn, mischief. Mischief! Who knows what kind of mischief... God, I said it again! Mischief! They might be up to. They might set fire to the tables, you see. Oh? Or steal our jewelry. In fact, I think my pocket watch is missing. No, how unfortunate. One of the ladies continued her childish wailing. It is, messire. It's unfortunate how you allow our important guests to be treated this way. Please, deal with these vermins. Throw them out now. Oh, my sweet ladies, I'm stricken with grief at your misfortunes. Allow me to offer my heartfelt apologies. Unfortunately, this child is my important guest today, and you are, sad to say, paltry squatters. Excuse me? Madame Charlotte of Montpellier. I don't remember sending you an invite. Same for you, Lady Antoinette of Rennes and Lady Claudette of Lyon. Most people I invite are huge patrons of music. That is why they're here today. They came to listen to Mademoiselle Catherine Louis Paride. She's a 7-year-old piano prodigy who played for the Queen last summer. The man pointed at the girl busy chewing her half of the bread. The rose girl just stared at the unfolding situation. Well, that's... I'm sure you were aware, were you not? No matter. I'm always happy to see you, ladies, and it is my pleasure to have you here. But I hope you don't mind giving some of the food away to my townspeople. That is why I keep my gates open. My servers are instructed to serve anyone who passes by, not just my guests. But don't you fret, my darlings. There's plenty more to be served. The ladies blushed in embarrassment. One of them began to fan herself even faster. Fanning intensifies. Excuse me. The Marquis walked up to the two girls. The Rose Girl's heart beat so fast it made her head feel light and dizzy. She had never been this close to him. It made her feel a mixture of fear and elation. Lady Catherine, your father's been looking for you. It is almost time for your performance. The girl looked at the Marquis and did a little curtsy. My apologies, sire. I didn't mean to cause a clatter. I have no idea how to say his name. It's gonna bother me. I'm gonna fucking look it up because I don't know. I'm sorry, but like it's really going to bother me. I was trying to look it up. This game is one of the first things that comes up. But then Yahoo says, also try, how do you pronounce the name Shalban? It's like, I already know that name. Got it. Do you have a pronunciation for the dude's name? Oh, I don't want to know about endings. I just want to know the guy's name. How the fuck do you say it? Just want to know how to pronounce the kid's fucking name. Papa. What? No, 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 no. I just want to know how to pronounce this one thing so I can just move on with the fucking game. Do you have a pronunciation for that name? I'm trying to avoid spoilers because there's freaking spoiler. I don't know. I'm gonna just say it's supposed to be like a French version of like, well, I guess maybe not French, but like a version of like William or something. So I'm gonna say like Guilleme? Guilleme? I don't fucking know. I'm gonna call him G-Man. I saw the whole thing, ma chérie. You put those ladies in their place. They were being mean to her. G-Man. I don't know what to call him. Narrowed his eyes at the quiet girl. She hid behind her basket of roses. She couldn't look at him directly. He was like the sun. It hurt just to be in his presence. Yet there was relief in her heart as he stepped closer to her. I've seen you before, haven't I? The rose girl nodded and made a curtsy. I deliver roses. I deliver houses to you sometimes. I deliver roses to your house sometimes, sire. Yes, the girl with the sweetest face. The rose girl blushed. I love your roses, by the way. They stay fresh longer than they should. You've tended to them with love. Thank you, sire. Do you have a name, young lady? What's the matter? It is all right, young lady. If you'd rather... Let's call her Rosa. Rosa! It fits her. I think she forgot her name, or she lost it. The Marquis nodded wisely. A valid point. Are you all right with that, Rosa? Yes. Come on, Rosa. You'll watch me play, right? Her eyes darted from the girl to the Marquis. Oh, Sir Gilly doesn't mind. Gilly. So it's Guilleme? Guilleme? I'm gonna say it's Guilleme. Gilly? He's really nice to me and my family. And he helps the people around town, too. He won't throw you out. The Marquis held his right hand in the air as if swearing an oath. I won't. See? Come on, you're invited now. You're my special guest. There's plenty of food inside, too, Rosa. Please help yourself. Thank you, sire. Rosa's coming! Yay! Now, this is my first public performance, Rosa. I am a bit nervous. Catherine scratched her head. What will I do if I make a mistake? Papa will be very upset. The Marquis knelt in front of Catherine and rubbed her shoulders fondly. Oh, man. You won't make a mistake, ma chérie. As long as you put your heart into the keys. Play to touch your audience, and any mistake won't matter. Do you understand? Catherine stared at the Marquis. Not really. The man chuckled. You will someday. Just play your first song with me in your mind, will you? Something that you think will make me smile. Sir Gilly's making me a little uncomfortable. Guilleme held Catherine's clear young eyes in his gaze. He kissed her hand. It was covered with sticky sugar and breadcrumbs. Catherine blushed. It was the first time she looked embarrassed by anything. It would be my pleasure, sir. Catherine trudged up the wooden podium and walked towards the middle of the stage. The crowd's chatter died down. She curtsied in front of her audience, waved to her father, and stole a glance at Guilleme. The man gave her a tiny nod. She sat down in front of the piano, admiring the cream and ebony keys underneath her fingers. Her own piano was broken and beaten. Father had sold his horse for it. The A3 key never played, and the strings would creak when it was cold. But it had never failed her. She knew the keys like they were her own fingers. She whispered to the new piano softly, as if coaxing a beautiful, untamed animal. Let's be friends, okay? She saw Rosa at the far end of the podium, watching her diligently. There was a renewed vigor in her blood. She could hear the keys calling out to her. A song that would make him smile. She placed her fingers on the keys. She began to play. Of course, it's very quiet because I turned down the music. But what I can hear of it is quite cute. At the ring of the first few notes, it became apparent to the audience that this girl was something special. Here was a little girl, barely tall enough to reach the pedals of the piano, playing as if she owned it. There were times she'd miss a note or two, but that didn't matter. She played the song to make someone smile, and it touched everyone present. Her musical skill was far beyond her years. Her fingers caressed the keys as if she was making a flower crown, carefully weaving the petals. She knew the correct way to tie the leaves so they wouldn't tear, like all smart little girls did. As the piano sang under her hands, Catherine seemed to disappear right in front of the audience's eyes. She was just a vision, after all, somebody leading them down a dream. A dream of a garden, the springtime, the shade of a tree on a windy day. The couples in the audience tightened their grips on the hands of their partners. Some closed their eyes and let the music saturate their soul. Sweet memories of youth, a first love, the yawn of a newborn. Rosa's eyes shone as she stared at Catherine. Her heart was captured by this image of her. A young girl swaying her head to the music, smiling as the notes poured out of her. She couldn't take her eyes away from Catherine's glowing face. Was this happiness? Was this love? She looked like she was in love. And she was, wasn't she? In her innocence, she was still in love with life. In love with her family, with her pets, in love with every new discovery. She was full of hope. It was a bittersweet feeling for Rosa. A happy teardrop rolled down her cheek. She wanted to warm herself in that hope if she could. In the audience, Guilleme and Catherine's father sat beside each other. Sire Paride, your daughter is amazing. She is, isn't she? His name is Francois. Pardon my arrogance, my liege. I'm a very proud father, you see. No pardon necessary, sire. Has she found a sponsor yet? The Duke of Versailles once spoke to me about it, but we have not made any arrangements. Then I must steal her away as soon as possible. Sire? I'd like to be Catherine's primary sponsor, if that is all right with you. Why, sire. And to further cement my status, that piano she's playing right now. It is hers. I've bought it for her. Francois's eyes widened in astonishment. That is... Francois gulped. That is beyond generous, sire. Guilleme smiled. Well, I must make it hard for you to refuse me, you see. I took the opportunity of asking you outright. You see, the Duke might offer an extravagant piano plated in gold. In that case, I have no choice but to humbly concede. What? I'm kidding. The Duke of Versailles is the worst miser you'll ever meet. The men chuckled. Of course, I shall be paying for her musical tutoring as well. Wow, fucking can't read. As required, along with an ample stipend to accommodate your family. Let's take a second here, Allison, and compose yourself so you can fucking speak words. You don't have to look so surprised, Monsieur Paride. Your daughter is a star. There's an effervescence about her that enraptures the soul. There's no doubt in my mind that she'll succeed. Thank you deeply, my liege. Please call me by my name, monsieur. Let me remind you, this generosity isn't without charge. Her tutoring will be done at my house. I want to monitor her progress. Apart from that, I'd very much like Catherine to visit me and play from time to time. Music is one of my true passions. Her presence would benefit my mood tenfold. Of course, sire. That is a small price to pay for all your offers. On the contrary, monsieur, you don't have to decide now. Kindly think about it. Thank you, my lord. Sire Guilleme. After the performance, Catherine and Rosa went to the Marquis's garden to play. Francois and Guilleme lingered on their tables, sorting out the details of Catherine's further education. Oh, she's pretty! Emily Paride wandered about the crowd, searching for a familiar face. She had arrived halfway through Catherine's performance, just in time to gush at her little sister's applause. Unfortunately, she couldn't find her father in the crowd. When she finally caught sight of the back of his head, she approached him hastily. Father, there you are! I've been looking all over for you. Emily stopped as she saw the man her father was talking to. It was none other than the Marquis himself. She fixed her hair self-consciously and curtsied. My lord, pardon my intrusion. I didn't realize. Guilleme smiled at her kindly. You are free to intrude any time, my lady. Emily smiled back. Just as the rumor said, the Marquis was easy on the eyes. To whom do I owe the pleasure of your acquaintance? This is my eldest daughter, Emily. Pardon me for not introducing her sooner. Charmed. Guilleme offered her a seat. Emily sat down across the man. Well, it seems talent and good looks run in the family. Francois rubbed his neck. Yes, my daughters are my pride and joy. Thankfully, they both took after their mother. Surely not, Monsieur Paris. The eyes are yours, earnest and loving eyes. Emily snorted at such sappy words. Her father was clearly basking in the compliments. If this really was the famous Guilleme the rumors talked about, then he wasn't exactly much of a charmer, was he? She didn't know what all the fuss was about. The ladies in the house she worked for could not seem to stop talking about this man. Admittedly, there was something morbidly curious about the way he looked at people. Like he was always distracted and could only say words that were expected of him. I'm pleased to have finally met you, sire. I've heard a lot about you on my travels. All good things, I hope. Depends on the tabloid and the day of the week, Emily thought to herself and chuckled. You're a governess, I was told. Where do you work? With the Dmitri household, sire. Ah, yes, I heard you were marrying into the family soon. Oh, Father, I told you not to tell anybody yet. I didn't, but you know how people talk. Word travels fast. Pardon the comment, then, my lady. Please. Your betrothed is a lucky man, I'm sure. The conversation endured through the afternoon. Small talk, musical composers, their little town, Catherine's musical background, Francois' students, Emily's work. Emily played with her napkin, offering droll opinions on the particularly droll topics. All throughout the exchange, Emily observed the infamous Marquis de Gaulle. This was him? The audacious, shameless flirt of the royal court and tabloids? According to rumors, he was able to bed both the widowed Countess of Devonshire and her daughter at the same time, and even had a tumultuous relationship with the Prince of Garnet. Ooh, bisexual? He didn't limit himself to royalty, or so the tabloids said. His latest fling was with an English poet, who they say almost killed him when he was caught with another man. Shit, he is super bisexual. Or woman. At this point, who knew what was real and what was a blatant lie made up by the newspapers? She had looked forward to meeting him, and here he was, finally, talking about sampling the new bakery's creme brulee. She couldn't say she was disappointed exactly, but the Marquis was a depressingly normal man. Maybe even boring, Emily ventured. She watched as his gaze flickered across her hair and her nose before lazily trailing away. How infuriating. She wondered if he would suddenly say something coy, or insist to dance with her. Just something outrageous. Honestly, so she could shoot him down. This man whom everyone was interested in. That would be a small victory for reasonable women everywhere. But the Marquis was nothing but polite. He did not ogle. He did not touch unnecessarily. No audacious gestures or suggestive winks of the eye. He would not even look at her for more than 2 seconds. Maybe she was not pretty enough to flirt with. Emily bit her lip. She shouldn't be thinking that. But there were also times he would quietly look into her eyes when the conversation lulled. When the words spoken were without meaning, their eyes would converse further. To Emily, he'd started to look lonely under the facade of caprice. He seemed tired of all the gallivanting, the rumors, and the numerous flings. We're all a little lonely, aren't we? Perhaps even he. He invited the family over to his chateau and commented on how empty the building felt sometimes. Music was his guilty pleasure. It got him through the cold nights, he said with a sad grin. How he wouldn't mind a warm soul to touch. And before she could stop herself, Emily had begun to imagine his lips on her neck. On one of those cold nights. Emily shook her head, trying to erase the thoughts in her mind. They were having perfectly mundane conversation. She didn't know where these thoughts came from. Fortunately, her father didn't seem to notice, and women don't have dicks, so her boner didn't show. Music and loneliness struck a nerve with Francois Paris. He had immersed himself in his music tutoring, his students, and Catherine, ever since his wife had gotten sick. It had been 6 years, but sometimes the nights were cold. For Francois, the Marquis was speaking to his soul. He was a kindred spirit. He wasn't a pompous showboat like all the other royalty Catherine had played for. And the Marquis even had a wine collection he wanted to show Francois. Such a down-to-earth, generous young man. Emily, your face is flushed. Are you all right? I'm fine. Just the sun, probably. This was not true, of course. The afternoon sun had already lost most of its heat. Thankfully, Catherine provided a distraction. She ran towards their little huddle and flung her arms around her father's torso, chattering happily about gardens and butterflies. A young, ragged girl followed behind her. Emily wasn't sure how old the girl was. Her dirty blonde hair hid the left side of her face. You could see faint traces of scars peeking through. The surge of motherly affection caught hold of her heart. "Hello there, young lady." The girl looked down at her toes, but she gave her a shy smile. "I see you've made a crown of flowers. You look very pretty." "Thank you, madame. Catherine gave it to me." "Sister, this is Rosa. She's really nice. She knows the name of all the flowers in Sir Gilly's garden." "Catherine, there you go again with your silly names." "Sister, help me convince Papa to let Rosa stay with us." "Catherine?" "Papa, please, please let her stay with us. She doesn't have anywhere to go." "Now, Catherine, that's not very nice. Rosa here is a girl. She's not a kitten you can just pluck from the street and take home like you always do with stray animals. Goodness knows we have all the stray cats of France living in our house." "Yes, I know she's not a kitten. I know she's a girl. But shouldn't we take her home even more so?" Francois sighed. Guillaume chuckled under his breath. He was clearly enjoying this exchange. "Your daughter has some very unique views, Sir Paride." "Well, Sir Gilly—" Oh, God, I forgot to change voices. "Well, Sir Gilly, what do you think?" "Huh?" Guillaume's face lost his casual bystander look. "You're a marquis. I'm sure my father would follow your orders, right? Shouldn't we take Rosa home?" Guillaume's brows furrowed at being put on the spot so suddenly. He stole a glance at Francois, who was silently pleading with him with his eyes not to humor the child. He cleared his throat. "Well, I'm sure it's up to your father, since he owns the house. He'll have to clothe and feed Rosa, you see." "Yes, but I've got that all figured out. Ever since Sister moved to work, nobody minds the house anymore, and I have to wash the dishes every time. Ugh. Papa's so busy, and we always have enough food for the two of us. If Rosa stays, then I wouldn't be so lonely on my own. She'll wear Sister's old clothes, and will mind the house when both Sister and Father are away. She can wash the dishes sometimes, and I'll wash them sometimes." Guillaume and Francois shared a look. "And besides, if it were up to me, I'd have people take one girl home in their house and give her food. Girls don't even eat that much. Not sure about boys." She thought for a bit. "But I'm sure it's not too much that people can't take them home, too. One time, I ate one whole plate of potatoes and my stomach hurt. If Rosa was there, I wouldn't have eaten so much. Maybe." Guillaume couldn't help but laugh. Francois rubbed his neck in embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, sire. She's very headstrong." "Father, I'm sure taking Rosa in wouldn't be that much trouble for us financially, yes? My new work pays better. I'm sure we can adjust." "Well, about that. Perhaps if Rosa works in my household, it wouldn't be much of a burden to your family, Sir Parade." "Sir Gilly's great!" "You're truly a kind soul, sire." "Not at all. I'm sure I need her help more than she needs mine. Isn't that right, Rosa?" "In that case, I would love to offer my home to Rosa, although I'm still worried that this is supposed to be more complicated, sire. What about her family, or her friends? Are we violating any law, perhaps? I'm not even sure." "As long as it's consensual, sire, the details can be smoothed out later." The girl was quiet the whole time. She was looking at her toes, or at Catherine. "Rosa, do you have any family? Relatives or friends you stay with?" "No, sire. My mother died a long time ago, but she guides me always. So please don't be compelled to mind me." "No, don't go back to the streets, Rosa. It's September. It's going to be really cold soon. Sir Gilly will even give you work. Stay with us." "But Catherine—" Francois sighed in surrender. All right. She can stay for the night." "Papa!" "Just for tonight. Then we'll see if she wants to stay for longer. Catherine, you cannot hold people in their place just because you want them there. Do you understand? If Rosa wants to leave, she may leave. You cannot keep her like an object." Guillaume cleared his throat. "That is sound advice, Sire Paride." "Yes, Papa, I understand." "Rosa, please make yourself comfortable in our home." "Thank you. Papa is the best." Catherine turned to Guillaume again. "Sir Gilly, don't you think if everyone with a house takes one person home, nobody would freeze in winter? You should make it into a law. They'll obey you because you're a marquis. And because you're tall. Oh, so people obey my orders because I'm tall. What a compliment. Well, you're taller than my papa, at least. He'll never be a marquis. Francois pulled on his daughter's ear with embarrassment. Catherine, mind your manners. I'm so sorry, sire. Guilleme shook his head, his eyes trailing over the Paris family. Emily watched him curiously. That same sadness once again surfaced for the briefest moment. You have a lovely family, sire. I'm quite jealous. You make me want to settle down myself someday. He chuckled. Maybe. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Did he just look at her when he said that? She couldn't be sure. Catherine is perfect the way she is. It's one of the reasons why I'm very invested in her. Guilleme knelt down so that he was eye to eye with Catherine. He patted her head. You are a very intelligent and kind-hearted girl, Catherine. You are a star. Mon étoile? Oh, fuck. I don't know how to say that. It's not étoile. Étoile? I don't know. Someday, I know you'll change the world. At least, I'd like to see you try. Mother. Oh, fuck. Did her mother hang herself? Help me. My chest. I can't breathe. No. Catherine. What the fuck? Okay. It's funny, is it not? They always leave you. Such is the way of the world. The more you love, the more you lose. Oh, it seems like they'll stay forever, but they never do. I'm the only one who stays, my lovely Rose. My love is the only love you need. You were always so weak. Always so loving to people who did not deserve it. I told you to get rid of her, didn't I? I told you to be wary. I knew it from the start, my Rose. She led you astray. Catherine was a curse. She drove you to a love I warned you about. I knew she would just cause you pain. Catherine's dead? What? Now, I need an explanation of what happened in between that. Why did the 7-year-old die? Like, did she hang herself? Why? What happened? I guess I'm gonna be a cunt here. I'm glad she's dead. It saved me the trouble of delivering you from her clutches. She was poison. I'm glad she's gone. Your silence bothers me, child. She was important to me, Mother. I loved her. Mother only laughed as Rosa screamed out her pain. Rosa felt strong arms shake her awake. Was it a dream? Rosa. She opened her eyes and was hit by a strange sadness that crushed her. She was dazed for a moment. Why was she so sad? And then she remembered. Her best friend was gone. Oh, so she really did die. She was gone. Fuck, time has passed. I like your outfit, bro. How long have I recorded? Oh, okay, it's only been like less than 50 minutes. Rosa? How are you feeling? Guilleme sat by her bed, a hand in hers. Rosa didn't realize she had been holding on to it tightly in her fitful sleep. She broke from his grasp and clutched her knees. Rosa? She remained silent. I came to check on you. You went into shock and lost consciousness. I can only imagine how hard it must have been for you to see her like that. His words echoed in her brain, yet she did not register much of their meaning. Rosa still refused to speak, and Guilleme fidgeted with his glove. The wake will take place as soon as possible, Rosa. I just wanted to let you know that she's being taken care of. Oh, okay, that wasn't a choice thing. He's hiding something. There was a slight triumph in Mother's voice. He wants to get rid of her body as soon as possible. Don't you see it, child? Tell me you're not falling for this. Rosa was tired. Mother, always the cynic, would say such things. She hated anyone who came close to Rosa's heart. Rosa didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to deal with anything right now. All she wanted to do was wallow in her loneliness, to curl up inside the hole Catherine had left behind and sleep. My child, tell me you see it. Remember the fear in Catherine's eyes in her last days? You've seen it, haven't you? She was mostly hostile, but sometimes when her sanity returned, she was afraid. Afraid of this man. How well do you even know him, child? I've known him for as long as I knew Catherine, Mother. He's a close friend. I didn't ask how long you've known him, but how well. Beyond the mask that he displays in public view, do you even know his past? Do you even know any of his ambitions or secrets? He was always a private man, Mother. Think back, child. Isn't it curious how all his past relationships have ended in disaster? Everything he touches crumbles. That is not enough to accuse him of anything. You idiot! He is different. He does not belong. You felt it too, haven't you? Rosa looked at Guilleme with new eyes now. A hint of doubt slithered out from beneath her sadness. Rosa wanted something to blame, a cask for all her regrets. Guilleme seemed like the perfect candidate, didn't he? Yes, you're finally seeing it. Open your eyes, child. It made sense. Guilleme and Catherine's relationship began to pewter off into coldness right before she died. Her mental instability only served to compound the fracture in their relationship. Perhaps Guilleme was tired of her and had her killed off for convenience. Catherine was 7! Or perhaps Catherine, in her psychotic state, killed herself to spite him? Well, I guess I don't know how much time's passed. Like, how old was Catherine? Because Catherine did not look 7 when she was hanging like that. So, like, how long has it been? Like, years? I don't know. Rosa stared at the man beside her. He's not to be trusted, child. He is a demon. Guilleme returned Rosa's angry stare with a resolute look. I know you must hate me, Rosa. I am aware that I only aggravated Catherine's condition with my presence. I know the feeling when I am not wanted. He stood up, a hard yet kind look on his face. Just remember that I will always be here for you, as much as I was there for Catherine, even though she spat me out. Rosa bit her lip. When Catherine had refused to eat, it had been Guilleme who fed her and attended to her. Despite Catherine hurling abuse at him, he had tried to care for the sick woman himself. Woman! So time has passed. She was not a child anymore. I don't know how old she was, but she wasn't a kid. Lies, all lies. Keeping up appearances. Then what is it that he has done, Mother? Catherine committed suicide. It was not by his hand that she died. Are you just going to leave it at that? Look at his face and tell me you trust him wholeheartedly. Rosa tried to search for the answer in Guilleme's eyes. But, as always, his face betrayed only a few emotions. I don't know. Mother was screaming now. He killed her! I'm sure he did! And you're letting him get away with it! Please, my head hurts. And you say you loved her. You never loved her, you selfish child. I've always known you were this selfish. You're a monster. Just like your father. Stop! You throw people away. Didn't you throw me away when I inconvenienced you? Admit it. You were secretly relieved I'd died. No, stop it! She screamed back at that last voice. Her mouth quivered. Guilleme stared at Rosa in shock. The outburst had accidentally come out aloud. It pulled a plug that kept the tears from pouring out. Now her vision clouded and she blinked them away again and again. She was not sobbing. She did not even realize her face was wet. Guilleme and Rosa stared at each other, both kindred in their sorrow. She knelt down by Rosa's bed and wiped her tears with his hand. He did not say anything while doing this, and Rosa stared blankly ahead. It almost stunned her how many tears a person's eyes could carry. I loved her too, Rosa. He said it after a while. I know what you're feeling. She didn't know if it was her own, or if Mother's anger was somehow influencing her, but her chest heaved. She balled up her fist so tightly that her fingernails hurt. Shut up. She spat, and the man recoiled at the uncharacteristic bitterness of her words. Catherine was afraid of you in her last days. You did something to her. I know it. She could feel Mother inside her head, building up her anger. He has to be punished. You are to blame. He has to atone. I know you are guilty. He must be punished. Guilleme stared at her dumbfounded for a few seconds, but the man didn't try to appease her. He only stepped closer to Rosa and wrapped his arms around the hysterical girl. Let go of me! I hate you! Let me go! But Guilleme didn't. If you need something to hate, then I'll accept your hate. But you must accept my comfort, too. I need you too right now, Rosa. You're the only one who loved her as much as I did. Guilleme's words brought back Catherine and Rosa's mind. Almost at once, the anger was replaced with a sadness so heavy she couldn't breathe. Why was she so angry again? She was focusing on anger instead of pain. It was easier. The real tears came, all for the loss of the girl they both loved. Tomorrow was not going to come. There was only right now, the loss, and 2 friends mourning a loved one. Rosa cried until she thought she wouldn't be able to stop, and Guilleme quietly held her. Slowly her weeping began to subside into sobs, and only then did he speak again. Stay in the chateau, Rosa. I know you're thinking of leaving now that Catherine is gone, but I can't let you wander the streets again. I will take care of you. It's what Catherine would have wanted. Like a spell being broken, these words brought back her anger. How could you possibly know what Catherine wants? She pushed his arms away from her. She's dead. Guilleme's mouth pursed, and he stepped away. I want you to go. Please leave me. Guilleme sighed and closed his eyes. I understand. He turned on his heels and left without another word. Hours seemed like minutes to her. She would fall asleep and awake in unfit intervals so often she had lost the exact time. Awake, she would stare at a part of the wall with no coherent thoughts forming in her head. One would think morning should be spent in a depressive frenzy. All the reasons to grieve are yours, after all. She could wail now if she wanted. She could pull on her hair, curse the skies. She could reminisce the past, admire the frailty of human lives. Unfortunately, it was something less poetic. Pain was simple. It was clean. It was a well-sharpened knife that sliced through the heart in one stroke. No blood, no mess. Empty. When tears were spent, there was just a hole where your heart had been. The hurt called out to you. It lingered. But since there was nothing there anymore, you couldn't find where the pain ended and you began. Rosa slept all day. The sun had gone down twice before she shifted from her bed. Dude, that's how you get bed sores. She stood up slowly, deliberately, with a purpose. My child, you know I hurt when you're hurt. Already a surge of power flowed within her, fueled by her grief. The power filled her up, and there was so much emptiness inside that the energy seemed to saturate her whole body. Purpose was always a balm for grief. Mother, tell me what to do. Oh, justice or retribution? So justice or vengeance? Well, I'm gonna be a bitch either way because there's no other way for this mother character to come out in her mind, so retribution. I guess we're probably going to kill Guilleme. Start with his guilt, child. Uncover his lies. Crush his mask. He must pay for everything he's done. Achievement unlocked! A grudge! Hooray! Rosa didn't speak, but she started to form the words in her mind, feeling them in her bones, giving life to every thought. She took a small knife and carved a symbol on her floor. It didn't need much, a guilt spell. Oh, she knows spells? It didn't aim to punish, it only aimed to inform. She needed to know how much guilt the man carried and the source of such guilt. If the guilt was concrete and came from a direct action, then she would know Guilleme did something to Catherine. It had been a while since she had used magic. It used to be the only way she could protect herself from the world. Mother had taught her, and now Mother guided her as she cast her spell. She needed a possession of the man. Rosa opted for his voice, still fresh from memory. She focused on the last conversation they shared. If you need something to hate, I will take care of you. I need you. His words made Rosa feel distress and confusion. Always, it was this way with him. The feeling wasn't foreign. It had been there for years. I will always be here for you. Rosa felt a violent force upturn her stomach. It was that horrid lurch just before vomiting. You failed! The spell collapsed in her brain. Focus, idiot child, or you'll lose your chance. Rosa tried again. This time she focused on Guilleme's eyes. Cold, like flints of steel, dark and fathomless. No grief, except perhaps for the situation. No Catherine. No pain of loss. This didn't matter to her. Their relationship was dying anyway. Where was his guilt? Rosa dug deeper. She increased the chanting on her lips. No torment, no uncertainty, no guilt. Did the spell fail again? She searched once more and found nothing. There was no guilt in Guilleme's eyes. She could stop the spell now, knowing that he was innocent. If the spell had worked, then Guilleme was blameless. But his absence was most distressing. Rosa desperately pushed her mind further, almost wishing there were traces hiding beyond her reach. Guilt should be present in any loss, no matter how little. Don't we blame ourselves for our own loss? Don't we hate ourselves and punish ourselves even if it wasn't our fault? It didn't have to be real, but we need guilt to feel pain. But Guilleme didn't have a sliver of guilt. The vicious pain took hold of her again, squeezing her stomach with murderous intent. The pain was so great, Rosa wasn't sure if the spell had failed or succeeded. Something is wrong. Before Rosa could agree with Mother, she felt a sharp pain in her throat. Rosa clutched her neck, scraping, scratching. A sharp, jagged lump was blocking her breathing. She could feel its edges crawl up her windpipe, tearing the soft walls as it moved about. The pain did not stop. Good God! Rosa fell to her knees and gagged. Huge drips of blood-spotted spit ran down her chin. She thrashed about like a woman being strangled. Mother remained calm, unaffected by Rosa's distress. Rosa was about to expel whatever it was. Tears ran down her face. The horrible acidic taste coated her tongue. Finally, she opened her mouth and forced the vile thing out. She kept her eyes shut, afraid to look at whatever had come out of her. But the choking feeling gripped her, and she puked again. The liquid dripping down her mouth thickened and congealed. It wasn't spit anymore, but blood. It gathered around her knees in a growing pool. Rose panted. Every breath was laced with pain, but the gruesome effect had finally stopped. She wiped the sweat on her forehead. Something on the floor reflected light. She struggled to comprehend what was in front of her. She reached out with her hand, and the prick of something sharp made her recoil. She tried again, this time seeing more clearly. Rosa picked them up with shaking hands. Needles. Oh, fuck, it's like the episode of X-Files where the woman started vomiting up nails. Or tacks, or whatever it was. Maybe it was needles then too, like sewing needles. In her palms were a handful of long metal needles. She had regurgitated them along with blood and jagged pieces of flesh. Rosa examined them with a horrified kind of curiosity. She stuck one in her thumb and it drew more blood. They were real. They had materialized in her throat while casting the spell on Guilleme. Rosa wiped her mouth. There was something wrong with him. Something potent and dark. Or could it be that she'd merely botched the spell horribly? She'd pushed her limits this time. She'd gone too far. But still, a tugging concern was forming. It was as real as the metal needles in her hand. Rosa tried to stand up on her feet, but she was exhausted. Her knees failed her, and she crumpled on the floor like a rag. We must get to the bottom of this. Are you quite all right, my darling? Now you see it too. There is a sinister force at work. Get up. We have a lot of work to do. We must find out what he is and stop him. Rosa stared at the needles in her hand. Who are you really, Guilleme? Fuck me. This game's intense. Oh, it's the piano. Rosa entered the tray. Fuck. Rosa entered the room with a tray of pastries and a pot of tea. Her duties were finished and she was allowed a bit of free time. She thought of accompanying Catherine for today's piano lesson. Oh, so we're flashing back. Okay. Kath, do you want some tea? The girl didn't look her way. She continued to churn out the bitter, melancholic sound from her piano. Rosa sighed, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She placed the food on the table. She sat on the stool beside the piano, twiddling her thumbs while her friend continued to stew in her foul mood. Is that a new composition? It sounds nice. Nowadays, you make a new piece every day. It's a shame they're all so sad. Catherine didn't reply to that, but when she spoke again, her words were bitter. I saw them again, those degenerate louts. Oh yeah, she's aged up now. There are definitely titties there now. No shame at all. Kath. All right, consenting damn adults and all that. At least have the decency to close the door. Sometimes I dare say that they want to get caught. Oh, is she talking about Emily and Guilleme, maybe? When I walked in on them this morning eating each other's faces, they had this look on them, like they were daring me to say something. Quoi? Do they want my applause? Very nice technique, sire. I very much like the way you swap your spit with my sister. Great tongue action. Okay, so Emily, très merveilleux. And he even has the gall to speak to me. Be a dear and put them on the table, Catherine, he even said. Like I'm a soft-headed giggle mug of a maid. He wanted me to get annoyed. I just know it. Well, fair share, I am. Catherine turned to the tea and pastries, stuffing the buttered bread into her mouth. Easy there. These damn things. These damn delicious things. She said the last part angrily, as if she blamed her troubles on the food's relish. Rosa giggled in spite of herself. Catherine wiped her mouth in mock anger. What are you laughing at, wench? It's almost comical to watch you eat when you're angry, Kath. You're like the giant monsters that attack defenseless towns in horror books. Oh, yes? Catherine made sad, tiny squeals and picked up another piece of bread. No, no, please, spare us! She adjusted her voice and boomed out a roar. The Catherinian monster of the deep doesn't show mercy to anyone. She dropped it in her mouth and chewed savagely. Yum! Annihilation is delicious with tea. The two girls giggled. Catherine's rare smile turned into a rueful laugh, and soon Rosa felt her mood turning somber again. What happened, anyway? Aren't you annoyed by it, too? Sister has changed ever since she started helping in the chateau. Now it's all Guilleme this, Guilleme that, as if she wasn't already married. Ugh! She doesn't even care that people are talking behind her back. They're calling her a two-timing slut now. I'm tired of running around picking fights with gossipers. She hasn't even visited home for a long time. Father misses her a lot. He always asks about her. Father had worked so hard all these years just to give us a comfortable life. Now he's sick, and all she cares about is that dastardly Marquis. Rosa shrugged. I am a little bit annoyed, but I guess I've gotten used to it. Their lives are their own, Kath. She didn't dare divulge more than to Catherine. I feel like that sentence was bumbled. But it was partially true. I like Guilleme. He's a nice friend. But I love my sister. If they want to stay together, then why not fix this and have at it? What irritates me to my damn snatch is the way they are with each other. Catherine recently found the use of expletives endearing in her speech. Rosa hoped it was a phase. They're fucking miserable. Any halfwit can see that. Yes. I've told Emily time and again to smarten up. She's hurting a lot of people, including herself. But as if she would listen to her 16-year-old brat of a sister, huh? Even Guilleme is depressed. I can tell. Remember when he used to come and visit us here to have tea? Or when we used to have picnics in the afternoon? We used to run around chasing rodents in the garden. You ran around. We just watched you get dirty, actually. That is very true, you knitheads. Back then, it used to be fun visiting the chateau. Nowadays, we barely even see him. He just stays in his bureau all day, brooding. Is it something adults subject themselves to, like a torture ritual? I really don't understand why two people who are clearly unhappy keep at it. Rosa did understand. At least some part of her did. She couldn't exactly explain how pain and love worked. All she knew was that it had something to do with an absurd, obsessive amount of hope. She felt Mother tugging at her mind. She loved Mother so much. Living with the Pellides gave her ample comparison to her former life. She had finally accepted that Mother was cruel. And yet Mother still gave her love and kept her from wanting. Was that crazy? Perhaps it was the only love she needed. Perhaps it was what she deserved. Rosa shook the thoughts off her mind and just shrugged. I know you're just worried about your sister, Kath, but they'll figure it out. Humans learn. Look at you, all profound and shit. You read any good books lately? Just the riveting account of the ugly duckling. Damn, I can't talk. Of the ugly duckling and Baba Black Sheep. Ah, the classics. I don't know how you put up with it, though. I hate reading words. In order to write, I have to learn how to read first. I want to write. Why would you want to do a dastardly thing like writing? Why would you want to hit some crazy strings until your fingers bleed? The two friends laughed again. I want to remember things. I want to write them down. But most of all, I want to feel the way you do when you play the piano, Kath. Oh? The way you look when you play, your passion and bliss in musical form. It feels like love, like magic. You inspire me to do something fulfilling and grand. Well, I'm sure you will. Hey, why not write a play one day? Oh, let's do it. You write an amazing play, and I shall provide the music. We'll travel around the country and perform. We'll make lots and lots of money and gain followers. Ooh, excuse me. We shall be known as the Palid Parade Caravan of Wonders. Palid Parade? Are you sure? Puns are the best, trust me. I have to agree. That sounds darn batty, Kathy. Ugh. From this day forward, nobody is allowed to call me Kathy ever again. The sound of a knock interrupted their giggles. Catherine, it's me. I need to discuss something important with you. Frustrated, Catherine pouted at the sound of her sister's voice. She turned back to her piano and began to pound a sarcastically happy tune. Rosa stood up to open the door. Hello, Rosa. Madame. She had seen little of the older Pellied sister recently, and it astounded her how old she began to look. Her once radiant face looked tired and harrowed, almost crone-like. Under her eyes hung huge bags, and yet she still looked quite dignified, full of pride and pomp. There was extra rouge on her skin, and her demeanor was elegant. It was as if pride was her only source of nourishment these days. Do you mind giving Catherine and me a moment of privacy? Rosa gave a small bow. Of course not, madame. Rosa gathered her nursery books and squeezed Catherine's shoulder before stepping out of the room. Rosa entered the quiet room of the library. She was about to approach the table when she noticed Guilleme already occupying a seat. He was writing something in a book, somewhat immersed in the activity. Rosa stopped dead in her tracks. Just go in and ignore him, child. Why are you so nervous anyway? Just ignore him. He doesn't seem to notice you. Unfortunately, Guilleme lifted his head and saw her by the door. Oh, hello, Rosa. Rosa took a step back. Maybe it was best to walk away as if this were a mistake. But wouldn't that be rude? He'd already seen her after all. But she'd never been alone with him. It was just too awkward. Well, why not just go in? It was going to be fine. They had conversed normally before. Yet, that was because Catherine had been around to disperse her awkwardness. Now I look like an idiot. Guilleme watched her pace in front of the door in amusement. Rosa decided to go in. She had already embarrassed herself enough anyway. There was little left to lose. Besides, there was nowhere else to go in this big house. She had already gotten lost in its hallways, much to the annoyance of the maitre d'. The library was her favorite place. If she stayed quietly in one corner, Rosa was sure they wouldn't bother each other. She took a seat at the farthest corner of the table and opened her book. Oh no, he's actually standing up and walking over? No, no, you horrible man, just sit over there while I sit over here. But Guilleme was already beside her, peeking at what she was reading. A cold sweat spread on her scalp. Rosa, that book. Rosa began to chatter nervously. I know it's a children's book, sire. I'm teaching myself to read. I know most commoners don't really bother, but I want to learn, so please don't laugh or mock me. Guilleme pointed to the book. It is upside down. Rosa stared at it. The ducks in the picture had their feet up in the air. Rosa squirmed, feeling the heat on her cheeks. She couldn't think of anything more embarrassing. I'm sorry. Guilleme's face lost its cheer. What do you need my forgiveness for? Rosa looked up at Guilleme. His eyes lacked the gentle glint they usually had. It was such a subtle change, something felt rather than observed. She thought he would reprimand her further. His face certainly looked like it. Instead, he sat down beside Rosa, drumming his finger on his cheek while he watched her wordlessly. Well? Weren't you going to read? What was wrong with him today? He didn't seem like himself. Had he eaten something bad? The aura he exuded was not his usual friendly warmth. Yet it wasn't particularly wicked. The look on his face just read, slightly and eternally miffed. Rosa turned the book upright and read the words out loud. Once you... That is the U with the short sound. It is pronounced like this. Guilleme made the sound, his face still in his lazy stare. Rosa nodded and continued. Her nerves were frazzled, but she was actually at ease in his presence. She felt like a child being taught by their parent. The parent was strict, but still caring. And the child was jumpy, but eager to learn and please. Most of all, he would not hurt her for her mistakes. Rosa was almost sure. There lived, the past tense of live. Why do we change it? It is a rule of grammar that... Grammar? Guilleme narrowed his eyes at her. Do you even know your alphabet? Rosa shook her head. You should start there. Guilleme rose from his chair and disappeared amongst the shelves. He left behind an old thick book covered in green felt. This was what he had been writing in earlier. It looked tattered and worn. The pages laid flat on its side so that the book didn't close properly. Rosa reached out to peek at the cover when, "You are not to touch that." Rosa's whole body froze at the sound of Guilleme's warning. Guilleme's stare followed her even as she whispered numerous apologies under her breath. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Guilleme just rolled his eyes. "You're always seeking forgiveness for everything." "Am I? I'm sorry." His hand struck the table in front of Rosa. In the quiet library, the sound rang uncomfortably in her ear. When she looked up, Guilleme's face was looming severely above hers. He moved closer to her, his eyes fixed on her intensely. Rosa's mouth hung open. She struggled to say something, but her wits were like the burning ends of a matchstick. Before she could compose herself, she felt Guilleme's hand lift her chin. Rosa's heart thumped loudly inside her chest. "Please don't. Not you too." She felt his breath on her face, and her heart sank into despair. Mother's voice resounded in her head. "In the end, they are all the same. He is like everyone else. There are no more good people left in this world, child." She shut her eyes and prepared herself for the worst, like she always did when... Then she felt her face being turned from side to side. She opened her eyes to see... to see Guilleme studying her face like a textbook. "You are a fairly attractive girl. Why do you carry yourself as if it is a slight?" He lifted the hair that hid her damaged eye. Rosa clenched her teeth. "Is it because you were hurt before?" He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was stating that the sky was blue. Rosa recoiled from his touch. No, I did that to myself. I wasn't talking about your eye." He placed a book on the table. It was a thin pamphlet filled with letters. There were lines in the book that instructed the user to trace letters with their quill. Rosa wanted to focus on it, but she could feel the truth in the Marquis's words stinging her. "It was the way you went limp when I touched you. Next time I advise you to fight back. If you don't want to be touched, then you don't have to be. Do you understand this?" "But I'm weak." "Says who?" His eyes were humorless. "The world cares not for people who think of themselves as victims, Rosa. If you need power, then be powerful. To have it, it is necessary to crush things along the way." Rosa flinched under the weight of his stare. She realized that the polite and courteous Guilleme was but a facet. Facet. It was still him, but it was nothing but an oil portrait, an artwork of his devising. Synthetic, aloof, and irrelevant, it couldn't capture his essence in a few human strokes. Suddenly, Rosa realized he was powerful. "Who are you?" she caught herself before saying it out loud. "You are not Guilleme." And yet... Sorry, adjusting my blanket. He spoke to her as if he knew what it was like to hurt and to fear. If you don't start acting like you owned yourself, then people will not hesitate to take everything. He laid out the rest of the books he had brought out. One was an activity book for children. It had a picture of a child holding an apple with an arrow stuck in it. Another was a book of limericks. The other two were thicker books that intimidated her. She would come to know them as Hamlet and Paradise Lost. Hamlet's A+, I like that play. Good times. But the one that caught her eye was an ornately designed book. It had a beautiful red jacket with delicate gold trimmings lining the corners. The Gods and Goddesses of Roman Mythology. This would be her favorite book, her treasure, and she knew it like love at first sight. "These books are yours. Take them with you. Read the thin ones first, and then gradually build your vocabulary with the thicker ones." Rosa ran her hands over the skin of the red book. She opened the cover gingerly, as if carefully unwrapping a present. "Thank you." "No thanks needed. I simply showed you some books from a portion of the library you were unaware of." "You're still so generous, even if you are like this." "Like what?" "That." "What?" Somewhat irritable?" Guilleme didn't reply, leaving an awkward silence lingering between them. Then he gave a giant laugh that made Rosa jump out of her skin. "I do look damn irritable, don't I?" "Why? Is it because of Emily?" Guilleme's eyes drifted away. "No. I've always been. You just pointed it out." "But you're not usually like this, especially with Catherine and the townspeople." I find it easy to adapt to people, especially to the ones I like. Guilleme looked at Rosa as if he had just become aware of her presence. Makes me wonder why I'm so stern with you. I'm sorry. Rosa shook her head. I somehow prefer this side of you. Guilleme cocked his head to the side. He brought out the green book that Rosa noticed earlier. This is called a journal. When you learn to write, start one. What is it? Something you can use to remember yourself when you've forgotten. Does it work? It used to. Nowadays, not anymore. Oh. The act itself is the only thing I remember. Now, let's start with your vowels. A scream pierced the hall of the chateau. It was Catherine. Guilleme sprinted to the door with Rosa not far behind. Back in the piano room, Catherine took a shaky step towards her sister. She wasn't moving at all. Blood dotted the ivory keys. I didn't... It was an accident. Emily? She was overcome with the urge to approach her sister and shake her awake. Make sure she was okay. But it was a nasty fall. Emily? Catherine saw the way her sister's head snapped back as it collided with the sharp corner of the piano. She watched it all like a series of photographs in her head. She had to check on her, but her feet refused to move. Instead, she began to retreat into a corner. She didn't even notice her legs were moving until her forehead touched the wall. She didn't want to turn around. Her sister was on the floor. Her eyes were still open, unblinking. It was an accident. It was nothing but an accident. Was it? She pushed first. She got really scary. She strangled me. What? That's absurd. Are you sure? Would she do that? I don't know. I think she did. Catherine touched her throat. It felt fine. That Palide girl, Emily, is it? She really believes just because the Marquis took her in that he's interested in her? Well, she's obsessed with the master. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Wasn't her mother a bit, not right in the head? It probably runs in the family. Emily had looked mad. Her eyes had burned with malice for her as she had closed her fingers around Catherine's neck. But she couldn't remember if that had really happened. Sister was always kind to her. She would never, ever hurt her, even when they got into fights. Sister loved her. Am I turning mad? I have the blood of a madwoman. Am I going to end up like her? I only told her the truth. Guilleme doesn't care for her. And she doesn't even care for him that much either. It was all just chaff, their relationship. No sense trying to make everyone else miserable, too. But she called me jealous and a cunt. She's never called me a cunt. She said they've decided to send me away. My lessons sent home. The piano replaced. It was for my own good, she said. I don't have to travel here all the time. I can concentrate on my other endeavors. I can make new friends. But I know she just doesn't want me near the chateau or Guilleme. She hates it when I catch her with him. Perhaps this morning was the last straw. She hates it, but she also smirks at me when I see them, like she basks in it. I think I might hate her. Catherine's thoughts ran through her head like a storm. They poured out of her aimlessly. I wonder if the piano's broken. Am I going to pay for it? What will become of us without Sister's wages? What of Father's medicine? What of my dreams? Sister can't be dead. Sister can't be dead. Catherine brought her fingers to her lips and nibbled on her thumb. She didn't notice this. Her mind was preoccupied. She was in her corner of the wall, biting her fingers. It was a tiny comfort in a rapidly collapsing world. Guilleme opened the door and found Emily lying on the floor. An ugly gash broke the skin of her forehead. Facing the wall was Catherine, shivering like a leaf and viciously devouring one of her fingernails. He approached her cautiously. Catherine? Rosa was out of breath, but was still able to let out a gasp at the scene. Emily's lifeless eyes stared up at nothing, while Catherine pressed herself into a corner. What had happened after she had left? Rosa, will you call for help, please? See that someone checks on Emily. Rosa did as she was told, but what she really wanted to do was hug Catherine herself. Guilleme took a small step towards her. He called out her name slowly, coaxingly. Catherine turned her head, her thumb still on her lower lip. The flesh was torn and a smudge of scarlet painted her teeth. It was an accident, I swear. Of course it was, Catherine. Of course it was. She pushed me first. She wanted me sent away. She wanted me gone. You can tell me about it later. Let me take you away from this room. What have I done? Catherine fell to her knees and wept. Large sobs sucked the air out of her. She felt like drowning, trying to keep herself afloat in between sobs. Every exhale was a squeezing pain in her lungs. She felt Guilleme's arms wrap around her. What have I done? What have I done? You didn't do anything, ma chérie. This is not your fault. There was a bitter bulge building up in her throat, and she felt that no amount of crying could push it back down. What am I going to do? Father is... Sister... I'm so scared. Guilleme's arms wound tighter around her, and she clutched onto his warmth in this vast sea of fear. You don't have to be. I will always be by your side. Catherine, I will take care of you and your father, all right? You don't have to worry about your future. Her tears soaked his shirt through, but the squeezing in her chest felt less painful. Why? Why do you do this? Why do you care so much for me? Guilleme's brows furrowed, as if confused that she even asked. I just do. It was a boldly stated fact, as if painfully obvious, as if Catherine was a fool for not knowing it. It made Catherine's heart expand in her ribs. When she looked back, she would recall this as the moment she fell in love with him. The look in his eyes was reassuring and strong. She wasn't alone. She was going to be all right. Let's get you away from here. He supported her arms and stood up, careful to block the view of her sister from her eyes. He led her to the door. Catherine hated how fast her relief came. She was still drenched in sorrow at her sister's death. Her father would not take well to the news, especially in his health. But she was all right, and she hated it. Rosa was with her. She didn't have to leave her piano, her dreams, him. Nothing had to change. And most importantly, she hated the voice that came whispering in her head over and over again. Thank goodness she's dead. Thank goodness. The first candle is lit. This candle is storage. The love for familiars. The cleanest love. Rosa stared at the blue candle glowing in her hand as she chanted her spell. Trust is the veil that conceals and deceives. Trick his eyes and his heart with the warmth from this candle's flame. A bond of blood like kin will be forged. Weave this trust so his tongue will yield to what is sought. Rosa stood by Catherine's tomb, nursing memories of her. The soft wind lightly blew her hair. It reminded her of Catherine and her playful ways. Tears sprouted from her eye. Even the wind console her. I'm always here, my love. Loss will always hurt. But you love Mother the best, don't you? Yes, Mother. Then you are going to be fine. I will never leave you like Catherine did. Rosa. Guilleme's soft voice came from behind. Rosa glanced at him in acknowledgement. He stood quietly beside her for a few moments, but ventured to speak. Have you thought about my offer? My house is always open for you. Remember that. I'm sorry for my outburst back then. It's nothing. The wind played around their feet, and Rosa pictured Catherine as part of the breeze, playful and free. She was free from the pain and confusion that had plagued her in her last days. They stood beside each other in solemn reverence. Finally, Rosa broke the silence. She was my family. I was in pain before she came along. I didn't know any better. She gave me hope. She was bright like a flame. When I close my eyes, I can still see the imprint of her light in the darkness. I can feel her warmth. A star. They didn't speak again for some time. Guilleme cleared his throat. I was an orphan too, much like you. I know what it feels like to lose too much. I wandered for a long time before I found anything to live for. Were you all alone? Sometimes. Always. Rosa nodded. Did you have family? Guilleme shifted uncomfortably. No, they, left me behind. I never knew them. Much of my memory of it is blurred. I was taken in by kind people once before, but... Guilleme sighed, and Rosa observed a certain disquiet in him. I didn't belong. But you have no difficulty mingling with people. I think of that as a necessity rather than a preference. But either way, it can be quite tiresome after a while. Things don't last. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'm making the mood worse. I'm sorry. I don't mind. Guilleme had never opened up to her about his past before, and it worried Rosa how little she actually knew about him. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick second to pause here because I just thought of something that I actually, like, kind of importantly need to text my boyfriend. So, un momento. Okay, sorry about that. Just the thought occurred to me that I need to tell him, so. Anyway, would you like to go around town? I'd very much like to take you someplace more cheery. How about our favorite spot? Guilleme smiled with understanding. The pair traveled up a hill at the edge of town. There the view overlooked the quaint village. The sunset painted everything in the pink glow of dusk, of endings. It's always so beautiful here. They used to spend time in this grassy knoll, the three of them. It was their own little hideaway. Memories of the past crept up on every corner, the ghost of laughter echoing in the wind. Rosa touched the trunk of the small tree they'd carved their names on. So many fond memories. Rosa, I want you to have this. Guilleme took Rosa's hand and placed an item in her palm. It was a simple silver locket. She looked up at him questioningly. I've had that for as long as I can remember. One of my remembrances of the past. I can't take this. You must. You need it more than I do. Oh, I'm a dumbass. Sorry, it's my text thing. Fucking idiot. Not my boyfriend, but me. I asked him to pick up something from the store and realized that I have the EBT card, so he can't. So, oops. Anyway, you need it more than I do. But it's old, and the locket doesn't even open anymore. I don't know why I've held on to it for so long. I can't even remember how I came to have it. But it comforts me. Maybe it will have the same effect for you. Hold on, just replying. Sorry about the text. This is your treasure, Guilleme. It feels wrong to take it. On the contrary, I believe you must have it. Call it a hunch or a feeling, an urge on my part. I'm not good with expressing sorrow or even giving comfort, but I want to do something, at least. for you. He closed his hand over hers, affirming the gift. It's yours. Please take it. You're wrong if you think I'm letting you stay in the castle simply for Catherine's sake. I do it of my own accord. Let me do this for you, Rosa. We've been friends for quite a while. If you need to leave, at least stay until you feel ready to go. All right. But I will continue working in your household for my lodging. You don't have to do that. I can raise your status to a lady. You can read and write now, and very well. I'm sure you'll be more comfortable in a higher position. I have no need for a higher position. Just free access to your library. You've come a long way from the shy girl back then, Rosa. Watching you grow has been a pleasure. Yes, the library is yours. They were quiet for a while, only conversing through looks, smiles, and tiny sighs. Fuck, sorry. Again, texts. Rosa realized that she had been holding on to Guilleme's hand all that time. She broke off from his hold, rather embarrassed. We should head back. You're right, it's getting quite late. Fuck a duck. Sorry, text. Guilleme walked over to the carriage to get it ready. Excellent, child. Being a maid in his household will give you free access to the rooms. He trusts you completely. It seems that the candle worked. I guess so. Rosa looked at the silver necklace in her hand. She fiddled with it, trying to open the lock. Open it, bitch! Open that locket. I'd like to see what's inside. An object that he owns will make any enchantment more powerful. Rosa fussed with the pendant for a while, but like Guilleme said, it was stuck. I'll try again later, Mother. I'm rather curious about it myself. The spell will start its effect in stages, gradually uncovering his true face. Fondness first, then trust, familiarity. Rosa sighed. But was the spell necessary at all? Didn't she already have that with Guilleme? Rosa bit her lip, remembering the warmth of his hand. They had known each other for a long time. It was rather comforting to have someone to mourn with. However, Rosa did find it strange that Guilleme rarely even mentioned Catherine anymore. It was as if he was shedding her off like skin. Again, the taste of blood in her throat resurfaced. The memory of the needles made her stomach lurch. Since her friend had died, the Marquis had begun spending all his hours locked in his office. He barely showed himself socially, rarely even attended meals. But they were casting a powerful spell, something that might harm Guilleme. What if he was, after all, innocent? She had years of good memories with him. What was she even expecting to find out? Exactly how could she live with the guilt of 2 dead friends? Rosa sighed. She cared for him. Despite all the suspicions, she knew that much. But Mother was adamant. 3 candles for 3 loves. A fitting curse for a man who frolics in love's domain. Storge, the love for familiars. Philia, the love for friends. And Eros, the love for lust. Open his heart with Storge. Unmask him with Philia. Strike him down with Eros. Yet Rosa kept a 4th candle. One she had named Agape. Unconditional love. She didn't know whether she would ever use it. Mother, of course, would object. But just in case Eros successfully struck Guilleme, she wished to light Agape. At least give him peace before... Rosa walked towards Guilleme, a pang of anxiousness biting at her. Rise, my daughter. The work lays ahead. To bring him down, we must find his weakness. Then we attack. Revenge will be sweet, my dear daughter. Do it for Mother. Okay, so that was fucking fucked up. I'm gonna stop at this. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'm gonna stop at this chapter. I want to continue the streaming, but um, I want to. This is like already at an hour and 40 minutes, so I want each thing to not be so drawn out, especially if I put it on YouTube. So I'm gonna end it here, and I will be right back.